Okay, so for today's class, you're going to need either some kind of belt or strap or potentially a hand towel. So you want it to be kind of this size, like the medium size towel, not the washcloth, and you don't need a full size. And again, this is optional. You can do perfectly well with some kind of belt or strap, and it does not have to be a yoga strap. It could be a tie, a bathrobe tie. For a long time, I used to use my old karate belts because they were just the right length, but they didn't have the little yoga D rings. And for today, that's fine too. You don't need the little D rings or some kind of connector. So, but you will need some kind of belty, strappy thing. Alrighty. I hear people moving around, gathering equipment. And then just normally, I really like blocks for practice. And then we're probably also going to use the wall, and I know I have a new wall hanging, but we'll work around that. So those are all the things. Excuse me as I peel a layer. It is still sweater weather here in Massachusetts. That's my best attempt at a Massachusetts accent. I'm going to turn my other lights on too because it's also gray here. Because Massachusetts, it's just almost always. We do have sunny days, but all right, so we're at time. So welcome. I'm so happy that we're able to have this class and join with one another, even though we can't be in person with one another. So that is just super cool. And I always have a theme for my classes. And this week, I'm dealing with the power of awareness, which I really feel is like the underlying theme for almost all of my classes, because I just think awareness is central. And it's not just me, this is part of the deeper teachings of yoga, that being conscious and present to each and every moment is one of the underlying reasons why we practice yoga itself. And we cultivate that practice as we move our bodies on the mat, because one way of learning this is to be aware of our own physical bodies. Where are they in space? How do they move? Where are our endpoints, meaning with the tips of your fingers, where do they reach out in space? So just becoming more present, more awake, more vibrant and alive to your own consciousness, your own awareness, and that power of awareness. And this is really at the heart of yoga teachings. So that conscious awareness is not located in your head. So much of our more Western or European way of constructing a mind map is to make all of that about your head. I have spoken for years about how like most of us would just walk around with just a head if we could, and how yoga is really designed to get us down into our bodies. And yet yoga puts this central focus at your heart. And even the word for mind, which in Sanskrit is chitta, means the heart mind. So that's beautiful. It means that conscious awareness that resides inside your heart. So that's our focus today. So we're going to be doing a lot of like shouldery work, a little bit of hip things, just because I want to hit your whole body. Not hit, but just become aware of your whole body. And so that's our practice. All right, so find some kind of seat on your mat, or you might even start lying down, because we'll all eventually get there. If you're sitting, upright your spine as much as you can.
Before we start, I'm sorry.
Yes.
It's a
No
little
worries.
hard to hear you.
The volume.
Yeah,
Oh,
something.
thank you.
It might be. It looks like your earbud might be a little bit crooked.
Oh, thank you. Oh, you're right. It sure is. I hadn't even noticed. Thank you for letting me know. I'm going to turn the volume up too.
Great.
That
That's
also.
better. Thank you.
No problem. Again, thank you for letting me know. I'm still getting all used to this new way of teaching classes for me. I know people have been teaching classes through Zoom for years, but I had never done it until all of this happened. So for me, it's this new skill. So I love that I get to make mistakes and figure them out, right? Like it's so good for my brain. So thank you. We only get brain growth when we make mistakes, right? So you get neural development through messing up. So every time I do things incorrectly, I think of it as an opportunity, which I think is awesome. All right. So again, either you're sitting or you're lying down. And if you're sitting, you're going to find that maximum amount of length from your armpits to your hips. And you do that by just rooting through your hips and lifting up through your spine towards the ceiling. And then create any level of softness, any little bit of ease you can through the tops of your shoulders and the holding through your neck muscles and even in your belly. Let your belly go, and your eyes may close, or you just might become very heavy lidded so that you get to focus internally rather than externally. And then notice how your breath moves in and fills that space, both your belly and your upper chest. And then again, watch your breath as it moves up and out. And see if you can stay with that whole circuit. Breath in, expansion, and breath out, the pouring out of your breath. And keep going just like that for a moment. Breath in and breath out. And of course, you're following your own rhythm, whatever that is for you. There might be a little bit of a natural pause at the end of your breath in and at the end of your breath out. A little kumbhak in Sanskrit, a stoppage of breath. And you don't have to emphasize that or make it any longer, it's just there. Circumferential expansion on the inhalation, softening back in towards the midline on exhalation. And then from whatever position you're in right now, bring your hands together, palms meet, thumbs rest in the center. And we'll sing our Om. So you can either sing with me or listen in appreciative silence. Take your breath in. Om. Good. Open up your eyes, release your hands, and everybody gets to rest on your back. So if you have a block, take it up a little bit higher so that you can find your block when you lie down. You might put a blanket underneath your head and neck for additional comfort. I'm going to demo with the blanket, it's optional. And then lie down. So we'll start here on our backs with your knees bent, feet flat to the floor. And my arms are in cactus pose or gold post arms. So my elbows are bent. If you can't get your elbows down, it's really uncomfortable, take your elbows a little bit further down towards your hips, and you may be able to rest some part of your arm down on the mat. And it does not have to be your whole arm, even part of your arm is just fine. And then notice the position of your hips and ribs. So what tends to happen is our hips take tilt. They tilt anteriorly towards the front of our body, and your rib cage might lift up really high. And all I want you to do is take the top of your hips and allow them to rest towards the floor so the back of your pelvis rests down on your mat. And then your rib cage softens down towards your mat. And I still have space in my low back, but I'm not rib thrusting or rounding. I'm in the space of the middle, the Goldilocks space, where it said consciousness itself resides. And then the backs of my arms rest on the mat. And I'm going to emphasize that. So, some amount of pressure down towards the floor. So, it could be like 20% effort, you just notice, or maybe you're going up to 60% of your maximum amount of effort as you root down whatever part of your arm touches
down towards the floor, and then release that engagement and just relax. So I noticed on my release that my rib cage moved. So this time I'm going to try and really stabilize. So press the backs of your arms back. Again, your amount of work here. So you might choose to wisely just press back a little tiny bit. Or maybe you're feeling great today and you'd really like to open up the front of your chest. So you're really pressing into the floor and then release. Oh, I did better that time. My hips didn't move. Then we're gonna do one more of those. So go ahead, take your breath in and press the backs of your arms down into the floor. Whatever touches, could be the back of your hands only, could be your whole arm, could be just your upper arm bones, whatever touches, you root down and then release. And then keep whatever is touching the floor, any part, down on the floor. And you're not going to change that. So, how much your arms are down, they stay down. And all you're going to do is stretch your arms up and overhead, any amount. So, again, my ribs want to thrust up and my elbows are lifting just slightly. So, I'm going to soften my ribs and take that part of my arm that was down back down. And you'll feel a lot of work and some deep opening here. And if you don't, um, maybe you want to shift that, or maybe again, you need a little bit more softness today, and then you're doing just fine. And then take your elbows back down towards your sides and take a nice deep breath in and a whole breath out. Good. Notice any warmth or heat or maybe tingling from around your whole shoulder area. And we'll do that again. So, keeping whatever part of your arm is down on the floor, slide your arms back behind you, up and overhead. So, up and overhead, and this would be towards the wall that's behind you. And then, wherever your arms get to, and it does not have to be anywhere near fully straight, you're going to stay here for a moment. And maybe you up level this just a tiny bit by pressing the backs of your arms down into the floor again. And I can feel the work in the big muscles of my shoulders. Good. Take a breath here and then exhale and pull your elbows back down closer to either parallel or nearer to the sides of your body. Take another full breath in and another whole breath out. One more, just like that, finding that deep, full, expansive breath and the softness on your exhalation. All right, one more time. Slide your arms. Maybe you notice that your arms move higher up this time, still maintaining contact with the floor. Bring your rib cage closer to the floor. Keep your hips in neutral and press your arms back any amount. So, by back, I mean down towards the floor itself. And again, you might have that 20% press, or maybe you're really enthusiastic today and you've got like a 60% press. And notice if your shoulders are really creeping up towards your ears, and just make the tiniest amount of space. Your shoulders will lift, but you don't want them to pinch your neck. It's again that space of the middle. And then relax your arms down. Shake your arms out. Give a good, hear my voice. And then grab a hold of your block. I'm going to place my block between my hands. I love this one. I do it all the time. So my fingers point up towards the ceiling, and I'm taking a little bit of hand pressure into the block. Not so I'm going to crush my foam block and make diamonds. I'm just keeping a hold of the block firmly. Good. And take a breath in and reach your shoulder blades up and away. And then drop your shoulder blades down towards the floor. I'm going to do that again. Up towards the ceiling, shoulder blades move away from your spine. Exhale, shoulder blades come a little bit closer. Good. So again, lots of us aren't used to moving our shoulder blades. That might be a spot that's dark to your awareness. So this is great for bringing in some attention into your shoulder blades. One more time. Good. Keep them in the down position. Again, wherever your body lands is perfect. And you're going to bring that block up and overhead, this time straight back behind you. And your block might not come anywhere near the floor. That really does not matter. Press into the block any amount, and then act like your block could touch the wall behind you. And this time your shoulder blades will elevate, meaning they'll come up a little bit closer to your neck, but not so much that you pinch off circulation to your brain. And then take your block back down towards your knees. And we're going to move with breath now. So you, on your inhalation, pick your block up meaning back behind you. And then exhale, bring your block towards your knees. And just like that, inhale, block floats. Exhale, block comes down. Last time, inhale, block floats. Exhale, block comes down. Awesome. Set your block to the side. We'll use them again. Give yourself a little bit of a squeeze. I'm in like child's pose on my back. Feet lift up off the mat, and you can rock from side to side. Good. And then make little circles on the ceiling with your knees. Go one way. Little hip opener here. Go the other way. And then either you're going to roll to your side and come up that way, or if it feels okay, you could roll forward and back. But if that bothers your spine, do the side rolling and come sit upright. All righty. So you might install a blanket or a towel or something underneath your seat, or you might just sit back up on your mat. I'm looking at my, and we're gonna do our feet. So extend your legs out and forward in front of you. I know, like I said on my little like feature for Willow Street, that the thing I always include are feet, which is totally true. And I love that they used like the goofiest picture ever of me on Facebook. That is awesome. And then cross your right leg. I know, it's perfect. Cross your right leg over your left leg. With your left fingers, you're going to separate out your toes. So slide them in between each and every toe. And you can see I'm wiggling my fingers in, all the way in, to make space in my toes. And then pull your foot back towards your own shin bone. And then bend at the big toe mound. And then slowly pull your feet till you make a point. And then pull your feet back. So the arch of my foot is the highest point of my foot. Roll your foot back towards your shin bone, and do that now faster. So you're going to roll through your foot like a wave. And rolling up and down, meaning this great movement through all the little tiny bones of my feet. Good. Separate out your toes with your fingers, and then slide your fingers out from your toes. And then turn each toe, wiggle it right and left, right and left. Each toe. You don't have to spend a lot of time on every toe. You're just seeing if all your toes will move. Good. Go ahead and pull your toe down, making a point now. And then flex your foot back, stretching your toes back. And then do that without your hands. Point your foot, and then flex your foot, pulling your toes towards your shin bone. And one more time, point your foot and flex your foot. Good. Relax your foot and go ahead, extend your right leg out and peek at the difference between your lovely feet. And we get to do side two. Cross over your left leg over your right. Make space. I'm mirroring just in case you were wondering why I'm doing the opposite side. So I've got my little toe separators here, otherwise known as my fingers. I'm going to slowly the first time. So I pull back, making a contraction here, a dorsiflexion. And then I'm going to push through my big toe mound, wave my foot until it points. So plantar flexion. Then I'm going to go back and forth now a little bit faster, making that wave of my foot. Rolling action through your foot, and see how much rolling you get. Sometimes our feet move like stiff boards. So you want to try and move the the whole of your foot. And then widen fingers, lots of space between each toe. Take your fingers out, relax your toes, turn your toe right and left, right and left, right and left, right and left. So sometimes I notice that like one toe or two toes, they don't move at all. Like I'm wiggling, but they're not really turning. And that's just interesting information. And then point your foot, pulling into that um, plantar flexion, and then pull back in your dorsiflexion. And this time, do it without your hands. So you're going to point your foot and flex your foot. And just a few times without hands, working the muscular activation to find these positions. And then release. Okay, bend your knees. Your hands might stay back behind you. They might wrap around your shins. You're going to lift your spine up as much as you can, using your arms or your hands behind. And then we get to play with our toes. So lift up all 10 of your toes and widen them as far apart as you can. So the pinky toe is like reaching for the sidewalls. And then set your toes back down and do that again. Lift up all 10 toes. Take that pinky toe and make it touch the sidewalls and set your toes back down. And now lift up all 10 toes. Keep the toes spread and put your big toe down and act like you're pushing a button down into the floor with just your toes. I don't know why you're pushing a button with your toes, but you are. And then lift up your big toe and set all your little toes down and keep the big toe up in the air. Wave it proudly. Big toe up. Good. Lift up the little toes and put your big toe back down. And again, push that imaginary button with your toe. Good. And you might get some foot cramping. That's fine. Just pick up your toes again and the cramp will release. I know, you'll be fine for real. And then set your toes back down. Everyone freaks out when we get a cramp, like, pain. But it's a cramp, it goes away. Good. Lift up your toes again. Set your toes back down. I know, I do the same thing. Lift up your toes. Relax your toes. Pick up the 3 in the middle and try and keep your pinky toe down. And if it's been years since you've done this, this will be challenging. That's great. And then release. Stretch your feet out forward. Shake out your feet. Wiggle them like they could come off. Good. And then come take a seat on your mat. So you can sit any which way in my class. You can tuck your feet behind. You can sit up in cross legs. You could extend one leg forward asymmetrically. And we're going to grab a hold of that belt or hand towel. So if you've got a belt, you're going to go ahead and fold it in half, just like this, and drape it behind your neck. And if you've got the hand towel, you do the same thing with your hand towel. It's a little shorter, but it's actually kind of nice. I'm going to demo with the belt. So I'm going to cross my right hand up along the line of my chin, along my jawbone, and my left hand under and down. So I'm not choking myself, it's down low. And then with your right hand, you'll pull up towards where the ceiling meets the wall. And with your left hand, you'll pull down. And then you're going to relax the tension and then do it again. And just do a few times with this little pull. And you're going to let your right hand win, and your head might turn to the left just slightly. And it should feel good on your neck muscles. And if it doesn't, loosen your tension. And then release and do it again, a little pull and release and pull. And then keep your belt crossed this way, but you're going to switch your hands. So now the left hand is on top and your right hand is down. And then let the left hand win a little bit. And you might notice it's different or the same. Maybe you like it better this way. And release. And then one more time. Left hand pulls, right hand down. And release. And then sit in the middle, relax all of your belt holding. And just notice the difference in the sides of your neck and the way your head sits over your spine. And we'll do the other side. This is from Trina Altman. She's a teacher in California. I always like to credit when I borrow, and I borrow frequently. So now you're going to take your left hand on the belt or towel, and cross it over to the right, again, following your jawline. Take your bottom hand and angle it. And then you're just going to do a little wiggle with that belt. And you can let your head go as you let your left hand win just a little bit, turning your head. Good. If you find a especially delicious spot, you can stay there and rotate. Good. Couple more times. And then switch. So now I'm going to bring my right hand to the top belt and my left hand to the bottom or your towel. And then do the same thing here. Just let your top hand win. So a little self massage. I know, like if you're used to getting massages, that of course is not happening right now. So we have to do whatever we can to take care of ourselves and those tight neck muscles and release. That's a little bit of work for your arms too. Okay, set your belt or towel to the side, shake out your arms, and then hold the back of your head. I'm just going to adjust my little headphones here. So I'm holding the back of my head with interwoven fingers, and I'm going to take my right elbow down to the right and then roll forward. So I'm going to roll through my thoracic spine and let my head go. So I'm curling in on myself. And then I'm going to turn all the way until I'm facing the left elbow down, right elbow high. And I'm going to keep going back behind, lifting up into my hands until my heart faces the ceiling, elbows high. And I'm going to go just like that. So right elbow down, left elbow high. Turn towards the floor and round. Bring it to center. Over to your left. Oh, good. And then turn all the way open. And then lift your heart and pull back. Long spine. Your head is in your hands. One more time to the right. Lean your right elbow. Lean your side waist down, a little lateral bend. Roll forward until you face your own thigh, and then the center, and then the left. Turn open all the way back to the ceiling, and then upright your spine and release your hands. We're going to do the other side, but we'll take a moment to check in first. Good. Sit tall. Take a deep breath in. Soft breath out. And then interweave your hands back behind your head and recross your fingers. So you do the other interlace. So that always confuses people when I ask for the other side. So notice I'm switching the cross of my hands. Do that back behind your head. So now you have the second interlace. And then second side. Your left elbow is going to lean down to the left. And then you'll roll yourself forward, around to the right, all the way up to the ceiling and back to your left, and just keep going in those circles, curling in. And if you find, again, a particularly good spot where it feels like you need that action, you can always stay there and do a little wiggling, right? A little back and forth in that lovely place where you feel good activation and release. Awesome. And release your arms down. And once again, check in. So that's good thoracic movement, meaning movement through your upper part of your spine. And it's just good work all around. Good. Alrighty. We're ready to move. So come into hands and knees. Alrighty. So I'm going to move my blanket to the side out of the way. You could always stretch your blanket out and put it underneath your knees. And then you've got some options here because I love options. So either you're going to keep your toes curled under and lean your hips back towards your heels. That's a huge foot stretch and it might be too much. If it's too much, point your feet and sit any amount back. So maybe your hips are still high, maybe your hips are all the way down to your heels. It does not actually matter. So for this one, I'm going to demo the toes curled under variation. So it's giving me a little bit of a foot stretch too. I like efficient poses where we get everything on board. And then walk your hands forward towards the top edge of your mat and let your head release. So this is a variation of puppy pose in between child and dog pose. So again, remember your toes could be tucked under if this is toe torture. And then you're gonna go ahead and do cat-cow in this position. So my hips are locked down. The only part that can really move is through my shoulder blades and my head and neck. So I'm taking your hips out of the equation because sometimes when we do cat-cow, we only move one part of our body. And this gives another part of your body the opportunity to move. Good. Release that. Come into a resting pose of your choice. So it might be that puppy pose, it might be child's pose, and maybe you just sit upright and breathe. Any of those variations is welcome and delicious. Maybe you have another alternative that you love. That is great. All right, come on back up to hands and knees. Place your hands now underneath your shoulders and your knees just back behind your hips, giving some space for your spine and your breath. And once again, we're going to shine the light of awareness into parts of our body that tend not to get a lot of attention. So this is a barrel roll cat-cow pose or Chakravakasana. So you're going to take your ribs and move them to the right and then to the left. So my ribs go side to side. Good. And then come into your normal cat-cow, ribs low, ribs high. And you can let your hips and head go with this action. And now we're going to combine all of those things together. So take your ribs to the right. I'll go slowly at first. Keep your ribs to the right. Bring your ribs up towards the ceiling. So now you're in a lateral bend and a cat pose at the same time. And then take your ribs to the center, but still in cat pose, rounded spine. And then bring your ribs left and round, and then left and neutral, and then left towards the floor, middle, and more like cow pose. So you've got that dip in your back, and it does not have to be huge, right? I'm not really letting myself go. I'm just dropping my ribs slightly. And then we'll go back to the right and down. And then slowly you're going to combine those movements until you're rolling from side to side and through cat-cow at the same time. And I like the slow variation because we really get to feel into each part of the movement. And once again, get aware of how our body moves and where it doesn't move, which is just as interesting to me. And then come into center. All right, sit back any which way. So maybe you come into your seat, maybe you use a blanket. We're just going to take a minute off of our hands. So release. Maybe you're sitting back in Vajrasana, your hips on your heels. Good, and do some flicka flickas. That's what I call these. It's very technical, flicka flicka. And then woe is me. That's what I call this. Oh, woe is me. Good, that's not its official name. And then take your hands forward, make soft fists, and rev your engine. Again, not its technical name. Good. And then we get back to come to hands and knees for side two, the second exciting part, the conclusion. So now your ribs are going to move left. So really lean to the left, get that side bend emphasis. Take your ribs up towards the ceiling and still to the left. Come into center, really pulling your ribs up to the ceiling. Move your ribs right and high. Swivel so that your right and low come through the middle. And now integrate those actions into one smooth roll. So you're just going to go all the way around, exploring the whole circuit, taking your ribs all the way around. And maybe your head gets into the action and your hips get into the action. Keep your elbows straight. Good. Come into the middle. And we're not going to take a rest break, but we'll come off of our hands. So swivel your feet to the left. And I'm doing the left side first intentionally because it is my tighter side. And you're going to sit your hips back any amount. And if this bothers your knees, don't sit back very far and just reach right here. So both my shins are to the left and I'm leaning my hips back. And then come on up and take your shins over to the right and sit your hips back any amount. So you can see I've got a huge difference in mobility from side to side. Totally normal. Come on up. Shift your shins over to the left again. Sit your seat back. It's always good to do this mobility strength work multiple times. It's maybe different each time or the same. And come back up and shift your shins over to the right and sit back any amount. Again, you don't have to come all the way down, but you could. And come on up, and one more time over to the left. And again, this might be really upright. And come on right. Good, and come back to the middle. Grab a hold of your blocks or books or whatever you're using to prop your hands up on to give you some lift. And then step your right foot forwards. So I'm in Anjaneyasana, knee down lunge pose. You hate this pose? I'm so sorry. So I have some suggestions if you hate this pose. So I'm kind of glad you said that. So if you don't like lunges, well, first of all, a blanket underneath your back knee can make a huge difference, right? Like sometimes we're so hard on ourselves and we've got our knees grinding into the floor. Don't do that. Um, or maybe you need to put something underneath your hands so you're even higher, and maybe you lift your back knee so it's not on the mat and you're in regular lunge pose. Like this is a great alternative. Like I like knee down lunge, but I have great knees and cranky hips. If you're the other way around, then this is going to be a better pose for you, right? Totally. If you have happier hips and cranky knees. Um, there's always alternatives, right? And if you really, really, really hate it, don't do it, man. Like, I always wonder, like, why do we torture ourselves in yoga class with poses we hate? Right? We're so weird. Yoga is not meant to be like a punishment, right? Like we treat it like, oh, I ate a cookie, I better do more yoga. That stinks. Like yoga is a treat. Yoga is the cookie. All right. I need a t-shirt that says yoga is the cookie. All right. No one will know what that means, but I will. Okay. So I'm going to come upright in my lunge. Again, if that's not you, if you're in regular lunge, maybe you take your hands to your front thigh as the alternative, or maybe you're upright just like this. And then you're going to loop your hips underneath. So notice how I've taken my whole pelvis and I've tilted it so that I'm more upright through my spine. So I'm going to do that again. So this is not upright. This is upright. So I'm getting some amount of pull through the front hip flexor and my psoas, right, which is really deep inside this back hip. Okay, so either your hands are down on your thigh or holding your hips, or you might stretch your arms up for the ceiling. You could do this from mountain pose as well if you're skipping the lunge entirely. And then pull your hands down on either side, just like we did when we were lying down. And then press back like you're pressing your elbows back into the floor. And then reach your arms back up towards the ceiling, straight elbows. And we're going to do that again. Pull your hands down. You're in goalpost arms. Keep your ribs in. Press your elbows like they're pressing into the imaginary floor so you feel the activation in the back of your body. And then reach your arms back up and overhead. Last time. Pull your elbows down. Again, you could be doing this from lunge or from mountain pose. Press your arms back. Good. And reach up to the ceiling. And then if you're with me in knee down lunge, take your hands down, come back to hands and knees, and just shift your hips right and left. If you're standing in Tadasana, shift your hips right and left. Tadasana being mountain pose. I always forget to translate the Sanskrit. Good. All right, this would be the second side, left foot forward. So either you're in knee down lunge or regular lunge, or you're just standing up, and you don't have to do that. I'm just demoing. All right, so I'm gonna come up in my knee down lunge and reach my arms up and overhead. Again, my hips loop. So take a second to find the long line from your belly button to your heart space to the top of your head. And then pull your elbows down. So I'm getting a little work there as I pull down with resistance. Press your arms back. Keep them in that same activated place with energy. Reach your arms back up towards the ceiling. So your arms get some work here, and we're illuminating the back muscles, which again, sometimes they get overtaken by the upper traps, the top of your shoulders. Reach your arms up. And we're trying to bring that conscious attention into every part of our body, including the long muscles of our back. Good big breath here. And then take your hands back down and come on back to hands and knees. So you might take a resting pose again, either sitting upright or coming into some form of child. I'm going to demo hips up child's pose or puppy pose. I'm just resting. Take a second to feel the difference in your breath. You might feel some warmth or tingling or energy right around your shoulder blades, and you might feel nothing at all. And then come back to hands and knees. And we're going to stand upright. So you might just come to standing, or you might transition through downward facing dog pose. Again, I love options in class. So I'm in down dog. Your knees might be bent or your legs extended. Stretch yourself back, hips up high. Then put a soft bend in your knees so you can walk your hands back quickly. And now I'm in forward fold. Press down, and we'll meet in the upright position. So find that belt or hand towel again, and this time take it behind your back. And my hands are about hip distance. They could be wider or more narrow depending on your your shoulder mobility. Stand with your feet underneath your hips. Again, a little softness in your knees so they're not locked out. And then pull on the ends of the belt. So you might do 20%, or you might do a good 60% of your full power to pull on the belt. And then bring your rib cage, so the bottom of your ribs move down towards the top of your hips, and take the back of your head back. So your chin stays parallel, the back of your head slides back. And then lift your belt any amount up and back behind you. It might be 0. Good, breathe. And this is a stretch for the front of your shoulder, as you probably are noticing. Take a breath right here where you are. Stretch your arms and then release. Woo. Set your belt down to the side. Okay, so we'll see if you still love me after this one. You're going to take your hands back behind you and stretch as if you could touch your fingers. And if you can touch your fingers, great, but it's not necessary. That action of trying to pull your hands together just as good as actually touching your fingers. So if any of your fingers meet, awesome. You're going to press your fingers in towards one another. If you're working like your hands could meet, but they don't, great. Keep working your hands as if they could touch back behind you. And then again, ribs move back into your body, especially those floating ribs. The crown of your head, the top of your head lifts up for the ceiling. And you're going to breathe here. And you should be feeling a lot of work in your shoulders. And then release. Roll out your shoulders. I love how simple that is, like seemingly simple, and how much work it actually is to do that activation, to do that work of waking up our whole bodies. All right, so stand tall, placing your feet down on the mat. We're going to do a half sun salute, Art of Surya Namaskar. So inhale, reach your arms up and overhead. Notice how smoothly your arms reach. And then exhale, come into either half forward fold right away, or release towards your own shin, or even the floor, or maybe your blocks. And then on your in-breath, slide your hands up your legs and come higher than halfway. And then exhale, slide all the way back down, either in that half forward bend or full forward bend. Little softness in your knees. And do it again. Inhale, slide up more than halfway. Exhale, slide back down. Hands rest on whatever your hands are resting on. Last time, inhale, slide up and pause. So I want you to be aware of your spine. Very often when I do this, everyone rounds in on themselves pretty profoundly. I call this a cashew, right? Because you look like a nut. And then take your hips back and pull your heart forward. So you're nice and long. So it's like cat cow, right? You're more in a rounded cat position while you're here in half forward bend. And when you take your seat back and your heart forward, you're a little bit in that cow position. You're not quite letting your belly release towards the floor. Your spine is long. And then exhale, let all of that work go and just release. And then press down into the floor. Come all the way back to standing. Reach your arms up to the sky. Stretch up through your fingertips. And then take your hands back to your heart. Okay. So we're going to take one standing pose now, given my time. So you're going to face the long edge of your mat and separate your feet out, any amount wide. And then turn your right toes out. Good. Adjust your stance so that you feel settled. So I don't really care where your back foot is. It's your level of comfort as you plant your feet down. And then reach your arms out wide. Feel that spaciousness across the tops of your shoulders and bend your right knee. And then as you inhale, straighten your right leg and reach your arms up and overhead. And as you exhale, bend back down into that right knee. We're going to do that a few times with breath, pressing into the earth. Inhale, lift your arms. Exhale, release your right knee and lower your hips. Good. Again, inhale, lengthen up, reach up, spine long. And exhale. Good. Last time. Inhale, lift. Exhale, lower. Good. Pause here in your warrior two. Stretch out through your fingertips. Reach up through your spine. And then exhale, lower your hands. Turn your feet to parallel. Squiggle or step your feet back. And just take a moment standing tall. Good. Notice the expansion through your whole upper chest, your upper body as you breathe in, and the movement of your breath out as you exhale. And then separate your feet again. So I'm separating out, again, a comfortable distance. So it doesn't have to be super wide. You probably want to move your feet more than like a little baby step wide. Sometimes when I ask for a wide stance, people come to here and that feels awkward because you don't quite have the freedom that one step more gives you. So find that freedom. And then turn your feet so that your left toes point towards the short edge of your mat and your right foot points where you feel most at ease. And then widen your arms apart as you lift them out to the sides. And by out to the sides, I actually mean a little in front of your body. And then go ahead and bend your left knee and bring your arms up to the sky as you straighten your left knee. And then do that again. Press through the air and bend your knee and straighten your knee. Good. And again, bend and straighten and bend and straighten. This time, bend your knee and we'll stay here in warrior two pose. So you want to keep the engagement in your legs and then reach out through your fingertips all the way from your armpits, turning your head towards the left. Take a few good deep breaths in here, finding the work in your legs, the reach through your arms. And then release, lower your arms, feet to parallel, step or squiggle back together. Alrighty, so we're going to use the wall as promised. So if you don't have a wall, you can, or near you, I know you have walls, but if you don't have one near you, you could use a chair or anything you could touch on. If your balance is awesome and you want to do tree pose without some support, that's great too. So spread out your toes. My right hand is on the wall because I'm going to stand on my right leg. Go ahead and turn your left toes out and slide your left leg up in your right thigh. So notice I did not use my hands to do that. So maybe your foot only comes to your shin. That's fine. Wherever it lands on your own leg is just fine. So without using your hands, if you reach down and pulled your leg up, let it go and just use your muscles to hold your left foot on your right leg. And then maybe you keep both hands, or maybe you keep your right hand on the wall, or maybe you're going to stretch both arms up for the ceiling in Vrikshasana. And then take a big breath here. And just like you're doing a back bend, reach out your upper body and lift your heart. And then exhale, everything comes back down. Turn yourself around. Again, holding wall or chair. You're going to stand on your left leg. Turn your right toes out. So this might be your tree right here. It's just a little tree. That's fine. Or you're going to, without reaching for your foot or your ankle, you're going to lift your left foot and put it on your right leg. And anywhere it lands is delightful. And then find that engagement, that hug to center. Again, stay here, or maybe you have the balance to reach both arms up into the air and you're really extending. And it's got that back bend feeling because you're pulling up and away from your legs. So the more your left heel roots down, the more lift you can find through your whole body, awareness in every part of you. And then come back down, whew, and shake that out. Okay. We're going to come down to the floor. Yay. So come down onto your belly. And if you're not comfortable on your belly, and I hear every once in a while people say they don't like to be on their bellies, you could take a blanket underneath your belly. So you can spread your blanket out. Sometimes that helps. Or maybe even sometimes you need even more of a boost. So you might take a folded blanket or towel underneath your hip bones and lie down on your belly. Or you're just going to lie down. So have your belt and your box handy. So lying on your belly, you're going to go ahead and hold your belt and stretch your belt out and forward. And I've got a good wide stance on my belt. Rest your head down on your mat. I know mine's elevated, but go ahead, put your head down. And then lift your arms any amount off the floor. So you might not lift your hands at all. You're just acting like you could lift your arms. My head stays down. Just lift your arms and lower. And we'll do that again without moving. Lift your arms and lower. And last time, lift your arms and lower. Perfect. And then walk your hands onto either side of your rib cage. You're still on your belly, and you're gonna make soft fists. So my knuckles are down on the mat on either side of my ribs. Keep your head down, and then just lift your elbows, lifting your fists up away from the floor. And again, nothing might happen, but you'll get the contraction of your muscles on your back. And then put your fists back down. And then one more time, lift your fists and lower your fists. Last time, lift your fists and lower your fists. Stack your forearms, rest your head on your forearms. And once again, you might find there's a warmth or a tingling, a sense of being engaged through your shoulder blades and the tops of your shoulders. Alrighty. We get to do one of the weird rolling things that I love so much. So you're still on your belly, but that's going to change. Take your arms forward. You're going to lift your left arm and roll all the way. And I'm bending my left knee and I'm rolling and reaching back with my left arm all the way. And this should just feel like yummy. Good. And then roll all the way back down onto your belly. And then we do the other side. Make sure everything's out of your way. Bend your right knee and reach your right arm out. So this is like belly twist, only we're starting from our bellies rather than our backs. And then roll back down. Sometimes when I do weird movement like this, people will be like, it's not yoga. Sure it is. It's Jatara Parivartanasana. It's got a Sanskrit name. And come on back. We're just doing it. We're entering into it differently than we're used to, which again is super good for our brains to do things differently. So you'll notice I'm going back and forth, moving slowly, and follow your hand with your eyes, because it helps your brain track the movements of your body to follow with your eyes. It's a good somatic exercise. Good, and then roll all the way back onto your belly. And then you just get to flip yourself over. So roll onto your back now. Just loop it over. Alrighty. And then separate out your feet on your mat and take your knees right and left in a little windshield wiper action. Just right and left. Nice and easy. Good. Come and place your feet underneath your knees more or less. Go ahead and cross your right ankle over your left thigh in number 4 pose. You're not going to use your hands. You could stay here, or you could just lift that left foot off of the mat. No hands. And then put it back down if you lifted. Uncross into the second side. Left over right. Again, stay here or pick up your right foot just for a breath and set it back down. Uncross and release. We're going to do one more time each side. Cross right leg over. Knee moves out to the right any amount. Either keep your left foot down, no hands, pick up your left foot. Put your left foot down, uncross your legs, cross on the second side, lift your right foot up and set it back down. Release your feet back down. Either keep your feet on the mat and roll from side to side, or lift your feet and roll a little bit across your sacrum from side to side. Just release your low back. Anytime we do any kind of back bend work, even if it's just small, we sometimes can, work those low back muscles, and they benefit from just a little bit of pressure, just a release. And then we're ready for Shavasana, resting pose. So please employ whatever props would make this Shavasana the most delicious and easeful and wonderful. So maybe you want a blanket underneath your legs. Maybe you want one underneath your head. Settle yourself down on your mat, letting the back of your heart space release and your arms let go. And then take a moment to check in and notice your whole body resting on the mat. See if you can feel into every part of your body at the same time. And notice what parts seem really alive to you. What parts of your body? Hello, puppy. What parts of your body? My dog is downstairs. That is why. So let your whole body release on your mat. Your heart relaxes. Oh my goodness. It's Shavasana time, puppy. It never fails. All right, who's ever got the dog at home, you get to mute yourself. I know. Move your breath into your belly. Once again, come back to that full body awareness. So you're noticing both the parts that seem the most vibrant to you, the most present, and what parts still seem a little sleepy, a little dormant. They're still there, they're still accessible, but it might take a little bit of practice, a little bit of conscious awareness to breathe into all the different parts of your body. So, for example, I feel my right hip really strongly and my left hip not as much. And so, with a great deal of gentleness, I'm going to direct breath into my left hip. Notice where that is in your body. And this is also an imaginative exercise. There's no lung tissue in my left hip. I'm just encouraging a deeper awareness in the part of my body that's a little bit sleepy. Let that body awareness go. Just come to rest on your mat. If you notice your mind start to wander, come back to your breath. You are welcome to stay in Shavasana for a few minutes more, as long as you'd like. Or if you're ready to move on to the rest of your day, take a deep breath in and stretch out every part of your body. Fingertips reaching away from toe tips. Good. Roll yourself over onto your side and stay here for a moment, just breathing into your back body, curling in on your own self. And then use that top hand to press yourself. So root into the floor, press yourself back up, and find that any which way to take your seats. So maybe you're sitting cross legs or your feet tucked behind. Bring your hands to your heart. May our yoga practice help bring us to the present moment, to help us find that a deep awareness that makes us more alive, more awake, and more conscious. And to that, we'll sing our Om. Take your breath in. Om. I bow to each of you. Thank you so very much for joining me today.